Hello, welcome. My name is Jody and this is Quilt Squirrel. And in this video, I'm going to foundation paper piece a Wensleydale block by Jen Kingwell. So the foundation papers look like this. And in a previous video, I was telling you about how the quilted chicken had us make a muslin, and they had us cut a 6.5 by width fabric, and we drew the 5 rectangles we needed to make the block. And on the back of the muslin, each block, it shows us how to cut each one. So I love this idea. So I've got this muslin and I'm keeping it close, and let me show you the blocks that I've done so far. I've done 4, and I'm using one of I bought 10 Tilda fabrics, and so I'm using those as the inspiration for all the colors in my quilt. So 50 of my 60 blocks will have one piece of Tilda in it. So here's my Tilda. This is my first block. I think that's so pretty. And here is my second block. The Tilda's in the middle. Love checks. And then this was my third, and the Tilda is this one. And in, I think it was my cutting video, I was telling you about how I had to be creative in how I cut out my pieces, because I'm a scrap quilter and I normally just buy a 1/4 yard, 9 by the width of fabric. And a lot of my fabric I've cut into already for other projects. And so I had to be creative about where I placed my rectangles to be cut. And I love stripes, and I had to have this fabric in there, but I didn't have enough. No matter how I placed the squares on here, it wouldn't work. So I got creative, and I don't know if you can tell, but here and here, I actually had to piece together. Let me get this down. You can see my seam. I actually had to piece a piece of fabric to the end to make it long enough. So can't tell. And this is my 4th block, and it's the Tilda in that square. So let me set these aside. And I have to apologize. In my last video, the lighting was horrible, but I was putting together all my pieces of fabric and combining them and putting 5 of the rectangles on a paper plate, so each plate has a block. So I did all that. So each plate has my 5 rectangles. So this is a Tilda block, or a Wensleydale block. And so I can go anywhere down here and pull out a block. So I have all of these, and I'm keeping these in a large container. So when I come in the room and I want to do a Wensleydale block, all I got to do is take out a paper plate, get me a foundation paper, and I'm ready to go. So before we start, what I do with my papers, as you can see, I fold on all my lines. And this not only helps with trimming placement, but also when we go to take out the back papers, since they're folded, it's a little bit easier to tear. And so, and I'm thinking as I go along, when I do 5, I'm going to tear out the papers every 5, tear out the papers, because I don't want to be at the end and pulling 17 pieces out of 60 block. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to save myself some grief at the end. So I've got it folded, and on the back of this, for my center, I don't know if you can see, but I actually drew a little line to kind of help me with the placement. So I'm going to pull my first 2 rectangles off my plate, and the first square doesn't have to be cut, but the second one does. So I pull out my muslin and I find my second piece, and that's my 4 by 6 1/4. So that's my first one. And on the back, I have to cut it diagonally twice. So I'm going to lower the camera so you can see me cut and sew and trim and all that. And I think I'd like to time how long it takes me to make a block. I'm just curious to see how long one of these actually takes me. So, do you remember that commercial? Just a little side thing. I think it was a Tootsie Roll sucker, Tootsie Roll something. Anyhow, it's a sucker with a Tootsie Roll in the center of it. And it had the owl. And he'd say, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll pop? And he'd go 1, 2, 3, and he'd crunch it. So, I don't know. It popped in my head. So, back to the Wensleydale. Sorry about that. So, let me start my timer. I want to see what time it is. And I'm going to time, see how long it takes me. So it is about 1/4 after. So I'm going to lower the camera and we'll start. So here we go. So get you down here where you can see. Okay. So this one I have to cut diagonally twice. So I've got my rotor blade. Line this up. Cut this diagonally twice. And the Quilted Chicken had us cut rectangles that are generous in size. So you'll see in a second. Okay, so I've got my rectangle cut diagonally twice. And so we're going to piece from the back. So I got my 1 fabric. And as you can see, my pencil markings, I didn't mark them very large. Well, I thought it would help, but oh well. So the first block is the only time I start pinning. And the rest of the block, I won't. So let me get a pin here. I'm just going to keep this centered. It moved. Let me hold this back. So I can use my little line that I drew. I'm just going to center it on here. About 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm just going to pin it on here. Make sure it didn't move. Okay, so now I need one of these long rectangles to go on top, and it looks like it might be directional. So if I do it like this, it almost looks like this is the top. So I'm going to say this towards me is the top. So I'm going to audition my directional fabric and make sure everything is standing straight up. You know me. So then I'm going to lay this on here. Let's see. Maybe I should do the other one because that's where I laid it closer. Okay. So that one works with that one. I'm going to fold this over, center it as best I can, Doesn't have to be exact because they were generous. So I'm going to flip this over. And I'm just going to fold this back and peek to make sure my fabric didn't flip on me. Just slid a little. Line that up. Okay, lay this down. And then I'm going to sew 2 stitches before my square. And I'm going to stitch 2 inches past. And I'm going to lower my stitch length down to 1.6. Make sure it didn't move. And then I'm going to sew this first line. Okay. Find my foot pedal first. Okay, there it is. Okay, here we go. Got my first piece on. I'm going to take my pin out. Fold this back. And so I'm going to sew this one, but before I do, I'm going to trim that first block. Just so, as you can see where the add a quarter ruler comes in handy, it butts up against the paper. So I can trim. Easy. It's generous. And so I'm going to set this fabric. Let me see. Do I have my trash can? Right there. And so let me trim the other 3 sides. Fold this back. Just going to trim it. And sometimes you got to tear the paper back to your fold line. And trim. Okay. So now we're ready to add on the second piece. So I'm going to take my other long one, and it's the directional. So I'm going to just center it best I can. Hold it, flip it over, make sure nothing moved, and sew. Put this back. Press. Okay. So now I'm going to sew this. I'm going to put a little T so I can remember where my top is. This is my top. So since everything's directional, I'm going to take, I have these 2 triangles left, so I'm just going to flip them over sides so that they go this way. Directionals up. So let me set this one aside. I'm going to sew this one on. And I'm just centering it. And I can use my block. Looks pretty good there. I'm going to take it and flip it. Double check and sew. Flip it back. I'm going to trim this piece off here real quick. Then tear it back to my fold and trim that little piece off. I just trim as I go. So that's that one. So now I have this one. Let's see, which way does it go? And these are not exactly 90-degree angles, so you got to be kind of careful. So this goes here. And what I like about how they had us cut our rectangles, when we put this together, the outside of this block, there's no bias. put this back and trim it. Okay, I'm going to give this a good press. Okay, looks kind of funky now, but now you'll get to see what I mean by they were generous. So I got all this. So I line my add a quarter on, and I trim. So yeah, they're really generous, but when you paper piece, generous is good. Fold this on the line. So see how easy it is to fold on my line since I already did it. It's easier to do it without the fabric being sewn in. There's that one, 2 more. And I talk a lot to myself when I do these, so one more. So as you can see, it was generous. So now we turn it over. Looking pretty. So now I get my third color off my plate. And I look at my muslin. The third rectangle needs to be cut. Let's see, put this behind it. I cut it in half and then diagonally in opposite directions. So let me lay this down. I'm just going to fold it, increase it, and then I'm just going to cut on the line. And then to get the diagonal in the opposite directions, I just lay face to face or right side to right side and just pick an angle and cut it. So I'll do this way. So now my triangles are cut in opposite directions. And this is another one that's directional. So let me see, they're cut opposite. So I've got my top. And so this is the top. So I need, this one will go here, that one will go there, there, and there. So that all my flowers are facing forward. So I'm just going to set these over here. And then, which is the first one I need. I don't know if it makes a difference, but that's the first one. That's number 6. Is 6 the next one? Yep, 6 is. So, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, just didn't seem that right. So I'm going to lay this right sides together, and I'm just going to hang this over about a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to flip it over, make sure it still lines up, and then I'm going to sew it down. Oh, and it went under. Easy fix. Okay. Resew that edge. Okay, much better. I'm gonna flip this back, and I'm gonna get my next piece. And so it's easy to see, like, that's not right. Let's see, which one is the right one? Yep, that's the only one that'll fit there. That little 1/2 inch over, line it up, flip it over, and sew. Looking good. Let me press this. Okay, so now I'm going to trim these two sides. I'm going to lay this down, put it back just to the fold, and trim. Do the excess. To the other side, tear it back to the fold. And cut. Okay, so now I'm ready for my last two pieces. And so I need to audition, because if I do that, that's upside down. That goes there. Okay, we'll do this one. Hang it over. Double check, make sure that didn't flip. Okay, we're good. Put that back. I can't imagine trying to sew this without foundation paper piecing, because they're not any certain angle. It's just, I don't know, I think you have to do either with the templates or the foundation papers. Okay, fold this back, and I'll give it a good press. Now let's trim up the rectangle. Tear this back. My fold. And so my little 6-inch add a quarter, as you can see, it's not long enough. But what I do is I just start here, slide it, cut the rest of the way. So it'll work. Even the small one will work. I don't know, you probably don't need to buy the 12-inch one unless you want it. But it can be done with a short one. Save yourself a couple dollars for some more fabric. And one more side. I always like when I get done trimming each side, flipping it over for the reveal. It's kind of like that ta-da moment. Okay. Oh, looking pretty. So now we need to go to the the 4th fabric. So I get my plate. Here's my 4th. And how does my muslin say I need to cut my 4th? So this is my 4th, my 8.5 by 6 1/4, and I have to cut it diagonally twice. So I'm gonna lay this on here. My cutting mat isn't long enough, but we'll make it work. My ruler, line this up. I think this fabric's so pretty. Okay, so if it wasn't long enough, I'm just going to turn it. Line it back up as close as I can get it. Lay this back on here. Cut. It's so awkward cutting sitting down. Okay, so I got it cut diagonally twice, and there's really no up or down. So let's see, which is the next one? There's 13. We'll do 12. This one. So I need to take this square or this triangle. This goes here. I'll do this one here. Just center it. And I'm just using my previous corner to line that up as good as I can. Doesn't have to be perfect because we have fudge factor. Pull this over. Make sure it didn't move on me or flip. Moved a little. There we go. Lay this on here, and we're going to move the other triangles out of the way so I don't lose them. And so. All looks good. Put this back. Take my other long rectangle or triangle. Set this on. Line it up. Flip it. Check. So. I can't wait to see. Let me press this real quick. As I do each block, the final reveal, I love that. Just seeing how each block is going to be different. So I'm going to trim these two sides. Tear it back to my fold. And trim. Other side. Tear it back to the fold. Yeah, I told you I talked to myself. Sometimes the person I'm talking to knows more than what I'm doing. Okay, so now I've got my long triangle, and as you can see, they're not perfect triangles. So they're kind of lopsided. So, I mean, you could lay it this way, you can lay it that way, and it'd be wonky. So there's one right direction. So it's that one. So I lay it on here, and I just kind of center the point on there. Hold it, flip it, check it, and sew. Which is the right way? That way. Lay this on here. Center it. Hold it. Flip it. Check it. And sew. And we trim. Or I'm going to press first. Make sure everything's laying flat. Okay, now I'm going to trim my triangle. I'll tear it at the fold. I'm going to cut and slide and cut. Two more sides. Cut it back a little. So you can see it's really generous, the fabric, which takes a lot of the stress out of doing this block. pretty, looking pretty. Okay, so now we are on to our final fabric on the plate. And this is my 15.5 by 5 1/4. Move this out of the way. Piece of thread. Well, that'll drive me nuts. Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay, so I need, how do we cut the big rectangle? I'll find it on here. So this one we cut in half and diagonally opposite directions. So I'm going to fold this in half again. This fabric's kind of wrinkly. Let me iron that. Okay. So now I've got a crease here I can cut on. Ruler. And cut on the fold. And then I'm going to lay these right sides together. Just cut one direction. Okay, now is this a directional fabric? And not really. So this is going to go in here. That's going to go in there. So which is the first one? 14, 17. This is the first one. So let me move these aside. Lay this on here. And it hangs over just about 1/2 inch. 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. Fold it over, make sure nothing's moved. This time I'm going to sew off the block and on. And when I get to the end, I'm going to sew off the block. The reason I'm doing it is because I want to catch my seam allowance in there. Let me flip that over. And get my next piece. Let's see. Nope, not that one. That one. Yep, that one. Flip this over. Hang it over. This is our last fabric. Start before the paper. Come in. Oh, what's going on back here? Okay, we got us a little rat's nest going. What's going on here? Okay. Let me get a piece of fabric here and see what's going on. Okay, let me take my bobbin out. Rethread it. Of course, it would do this when I'm recording. Cut off this piece. It only takes a second to rethread. It's just a pain in the rear. Let's sew this again, see what happens. Much better. Okay, now let's get rid of this nest. closer. Real life sewing here. Okay, let me pull off these threads. Okay. I don't think the rest of this will hurt. Let me see what's going on here. Gotta be careful because that's bias. Okay. Get rid of this. Couple more here. Sorry about this. I'm sure it happens to everyone. Okay. There we go. Keep finding little threads. Okay. We'll do this again. Take 2. Put it on there. Hold and flip. The bad thing about paper piecing, you can't have too many whoopsies. Because every time you sew, you're perforating that paper. Okay. Give this a press. Don't know why that did that. Okay. So now we need to trim. I'm going to tear this back to the fold. Okay. And trim. Get back in camera here. Tear this back to the fold. And cut. And then there were 2 more pieces, and then we're done. This one we'll put there. Okay, hold, flip, check. Oops, it moved. Let me line this back up over the edge. Oh, paper piecing. Gotta love it. Or not. Okay, here we go. Put that back. One more piece, and then we're ready to trim our block. And we'll see how long this Tootsie Roll took. Lay this down, and sew. Put this back and give it a good press. now we will trim our block. Get my ruler. I'm going to cut on the outside line. Line up my ruler. Hold down. Good. No. I'll come off there. A lot of fabric in that seam. Okay. There we go. Okay. 3 more sides. That. The long side. One more side, and we can see how long it took us. Okay, so how long did it take us? Started a quarter after, and we are at 10 till, so that's what, 25 minutes? That's not bad. So the big reveal, let me look at it first. Ooh. Pretty. It's pretty. Love it. So, let me move the camera back up. If I can do this without it falling. Okay. So now I have 5 blocks. So that's going to look so pretty with all these. Loving it. See, my Tilda fabric's in the center there. This is going to be so pretty. And with that one. Yeah. This is going to be so pretty. Keeps getting pretty. But it's going to be pretty. So even with that one. Love it. So that's how I paper piece. And that was my 5th Wensleydale. So, let's see, 5s. I only have 55 more to go. But each plate's going to be so much different from the other. So it's going to be a little prize, or I don't know, a little surprise. Each plate. So that's all I've got. I have been thinking of, each year I kind of make a New Year's resolution, and as I said before, I don't do the, I'm going to lose weight, because I never do. I would like to, but we'll see. But each year I try and come up with some new craft to try, or technique, or something like that. Like one year I said I wanted to learn to knit, so I worked months on a scarf knitting. Last year I think I said I wanted to do some on my little sit-down Sweet 16 machine. I never did that. And I wanted to hand quilt, but I went as far as hand basting my UFO quilt, which was another thing I wanted to do, was do a UFO quilt. So I did that one. So I'm thinking next year, oh, and hand applique was the year before last. So I did Quilt Show's Block of the Month. I forget what it was called, but there's a lot of applique. So I did that. So next year, I'm thinking one of the things I want to do is where I hand basted my UFO quilt. I want to learn how to hand quilt a quilt. I've got the stuff to do it. I just need to decide if I want to do like all straight lines, or since it's a UFO, do I want to treat each area different, or do I want to wait to do something like that on a different quilt, where this one I'm just wanting to learn the basics. So I got to figure that out. And I watch Sue from Small Things, and so I've learned a lot from her videos about how to hand baste. She does hers on the floor. I didn't do that. I get on the floor, I'm going to need help to get up. But she also shows how she quilts. And so I'm going to try that next year. So I think I need to get that out, trim off the excess around it, and get that bad boy started next year. So can't wait. I would love to be able to hand quilt a quilt. So hopefully it's not too difficult. But paper piecing, not easy either, but it's doable. So that's all I've got for you today. It's cloudy and rainy and cold here in Ohio. So I hope the lighting's better so you can kind of see my fabrics. I don't know if you can see them that great from back there. This is my favorite block so far. I think it's so pretty. Pretty. Okay, here we go. I will talk to you soon. Bye for now. Stay safe.